Hey, Moose. Hey,
Hey.
William. Hey, you smell that?
I do.
College
I smell
football's
it.
back. College football is back.
When you think of college football, what smell do you get?
Ooh,
Cut grass.
barbecue. Yeah, cut grass, barbecue, freshly cracked beer.
Ooh, I think I smell the sound of a freshly cracked beer.
The problem is the Sundays after college football, I smell the stale beer in my garbage can because I forgot to take it out the night before. So walking downstairs, like, oh God, what did I do? Oh, I watched college football for 14 hours straight and didn't take the garbage out, so it smells like stale beer.
But you're a true American hero by doing that. Just to let you know.
I take the garbage out the next day. We're good. But we had college football last weekend.
We did.
We'll get into the action. We had one major game there with Florida State and Georgia Tech. I'm sure everybody got a chance to watch it. We'll recap and give our thoughts. I want to start with a little bit of news, though. Kirk Ferentz is suspended this weekend. It's like kind of big, but also kind of flying under the radar at the same time because we've got week one. But Kirk Ferentz is suspended for week one.
Is Kirk Ferentz the new Jim Harbaugh? People are asking.
People are asking. People are asking. Kirk Ferentz was actually asked about sign stealing today because of the whole documentary, which I don't feel like getting into, but I thought it was funny that Kirk Ferentz was asked about it.
If he's suspended, what is he able to still do media?
He is suspended from midnight on Saturday to 11:59 on Saturday.
Lord have mercy. Good. Hey, they laid the hammer down on him. I bet he'll never get. What's his name again? McNamara.
Cade McNamara. He went and got Cade McNamara. It's funny because he got hit for that one, but Caden Proctor, who openly admitted to the tampering, is not the one he got pounded for.
Yeah. Well, who could ever want to go after a quarterback named Cade? I mean, I couldn't imagine pulling for a quarterback named Cade.
He sounds like a perfect quarterback for Iowa, and it's just funny that they went and got a very mediocre quarterback who's going to start for them this weekend. And here's a funny question: what if Iowa goes out and scores like 50 points without Kirk Ferentz being the head coach this weekend?
That would be awesome. Well, it would be without another Ferentz too. So, but now we won't.
Is it just if you lose the Ferentz guys, then you might be able to have an offense? I'm very curious to see if they can put together a formidable offense this weekend.
Ferentz Bueller's Day Off. That'd be a great T-shirt.
Ooh, somebody's got to have made it. That would be such a great T-shirt to wear for this weekend.
Yeah, let's get it. Can somebody make that? Ferentz Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, that would be such a good one.
Have like a car with Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz in the car together.
Brian Ferentz is driving off a cliff because that's how Iowa fans felt about him last year.
Who would be Ben Stein?
Ooh.
Who's a boring announcer?
I was going to say Kirk Ferentz could be Ben Stein. He's pretty boring.
Yeah, Bueller.
Exactly.
It'd be Ryan Day. Boring coach.
Sure. Dabo. He'd be Dabo.
No, Dabo. He's got too much emotion. I guess Ryan Day does too.
So we can both agree, non-story, not a big deal. Nothing's going to change.
Who are they playing?
Southeastern Illinois or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be
something like that.
That's a shame.
Eastern Illinois. I forget who they're playing. A nobody team. Next big story. We'll get into this one a little bit more here with Georgia, but Georgia could be without Trevor Etienne this weekend.
Yeah.
There's some speculation with his legal troubles over the offseason. There's some rule implications. If he gets caught with a DUI, he has to miss 10% of his games. But I know you know a little bit more about this. You've been paying a little bit more attention to it.
So the big news is that the starting running back, the backup running back, was it Roderick Robinson, is out.
Yes.
Roderick what? Yeah, Roderick Robinson. He's out with a ankle injury, I believe it is, or foot injury. And Branson Robinson, another Robinson. There's a lot of Robinsons we've determined on.
They also have an Ellis Robinson on defense.
Yeah, this is meet the Robinsons. Branson Robinson is coming off of a knee injury from last year, in which I think he missed the entire season. So he is assumed to be the starter, but they have not said anything about Trevor Etienne's availability. Now, per Georgia's athletic department rules, if you are charged with a DUI, you must miss at least 10% of your season. That'd be one game. However, Trevor Etienne's charge of a DUI was dropped because he had a plea deal to change it to a minor possession, failure to maintain lane, and his windows being too darkly tinted. I believe those are the only three that remained. So what do you do with that? I mean, minor possession and failure to maintain lane screams DUI, but it doesn't say DUI. So sounds like a duck, but we cannot determine it's a duck. Could be a goose. So I'm curious to see what happens because Kirby Smart will not comment on this situation. So that either tells me he's definitely not playing, or they're going to announce the day of that he is playing and he's going to be suspended for St. Agnes School for Girls, so they can really teach him a lesson.
They could pull something that, well, there's still some pending litigation out there, and until that is taken care of, I could see that being pulled. I mean, let's be honest. These coaches always preach, they want to make, good men. They want to, turn these, high school boys into grown men, responsible adults. But ultimately, these coaches are based upon if you win games.
Okay, and
Kirby Smart can go 0-12, and he makes great men that turn into great citizens and do great things with their careers. Doesn't matter if he goes 0-12.
Let me add to that, Jake. And I've told this story on this podcast before, and y'all wonder why I love Dabo so much, and I'm such a Dabo homer. So he's one of the main coaches who preaches I want to make better men than I do athletes, right? My senior year, we made it to the national championship, and he sent 2 starters and a key contributor home because they failed a drug test the day before the national championship, or a couple of days before the national championship. And, that screams to me, he could have appealed it. The other 3 teams appealed. They would have been, so their players would have been eligible to play. Dabo did not, and our guys get sent home. So that screams to me like there are some coaches out there who preach culture and then they actually teach culture. And we're going to find out about Kirby Smart this weekend, because honestly, like, with everything going on in the Georgia program with all these driving violations, this could be the perfect opportunity to use a key player for a game that they're favored to win by a substantial amount, 2 touchdowns. I think the line is still at 13.5. So you want to prove a point and that you're making better men, use Trevor Etienne. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Clemson guy, but don't sit there and come into my kid's living room and tell me that you're all about making better men, but then you allow somebody to do this when all this other crap's going on in your program. That falls on deaf ears at that point. So we'll find out on Saturday for sure.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens, especially with all the driving incidents. It's become a meme on the internet that anytime
it really has,
that something happens that, if somebody famous gets pulled over for a DUI or reckless driving or speeding, it doesn't even matter if it's college football related. People are putting, they'd be perfect for the Georgia program. And that's not a good, rapport. It's not a good reputation that you want to have as a program. It's not one where you want to be known that, yep, our guys, they street race, they, are drinking and driving, and they're getting all these driving related incidents. It's not a good reputation to have. And it wouldn't shock me if he does still suspend Trevor Etienne. I could see him suspending him for the first half of the game since this technically was not a DUI, I'm not going to suspend you the whole game, but you are going to miss time because it was a driving related incident.
Right.
So I could see there being a middle line there. All right, let's jump into last week's action. I don't want to say 4 major games. 4 games with FBS teams. Hawaii wins, not by a lot. Montana State beats New Mexico. I had New Mexico covering. New Mexico probably should have won that game. And then the big ones here. Georgia Tech stuns Florida State. I don't want to say stuns, though. There are a lot of people that were in on the Georgia Tech hype this year of being able to upset Florida State. So I don't want to say it's fully stunned, but by preseason rankings, which mean next to nothing, Florida State was a top 10 team and Georgia Tech was unranked. And I'm sure when the first rankings come out that Georgia Tech will be ranked and Florida State will free fall down somewhere. But your initial reaction here to watching Georgia Tech just bully the Florida State defensive line.
That was the most damning thing. And I don't want to sit here and say I told you so. I don't. I did call Florida State to win by a field goal, a late field goal, so I got it the other way around. But I don't want to sit here and tell you I told you so. I cannot tell you how many people told me that Mike Norvell is going to change DJ Uiagalelei. Guys, DJ Uiagalelei is a great person, seemingly, from what I've seen via camera. He can throw the ball very hard. He can throw the ball very far. He is very inconsistent. And Jake, he was very, very inconsistent again. It was, I don't want to talk poorly on this guy, but it was very nice not seeing him in orange make some of the throws that he made this weekend. That was a very, very, very nice. So get it off my chest. We tried to tell y'all. I tried to tell y'all all year long. But to back to your original point, I tend to go off on these rants. So excuse me if this is your first time listening. You can still be a 5-star listener. Just hang in on the rant. Hang in on the rant. Go the extra mile. The most damning thing, Jake, is not only that Georgia Tech bullied their defensive line, it's that Georgia Tech's defensive line bullied Florida State's offensive line. So, last week when we talked about Florida State and during the ACC preview, we talked about that defense and we talked about that offense and we talked about the offensive line being a strength of the team. I mean, it was over 200 combined starts on that offensive line. They were all coming back. It was supposed to be the strength of the team. They were going to lean on the running game. Jake, they didn't even run for 100 yards as a team. They had 98 yards on the ground. And you can equate that to them going away from the running game. I mean, the scripted plays they had were beautiful, immaculate. You watched the first quarter, you watched the first drive, and Florida State just marched down the field. Then after that, they went stagnant. And you compare that 98 yards rushing as a team for Florida State to Georgia Tech's 190 yards. They almost put $2 on them. This isn't a fluke. Georgia Tech did not escape or did not, come out of nowhere. They dominated them, Jake. They were the better team the whole entire game. If you look at the entire game, Georgia Tech was the better team, and they proved it. And they proved it on the stat sheet. They proved it from the eye test. They proved it all over. So Florida State, I talked about a lot with the transfer portal. I got mentioned on Josh Pate's show. Shout out Josh Pate. And I asked, why does Florida State not get as much flack as Colorado does? Now, obviously, they don't use it to the degree that Colorado does, but they're replacing key contributors as their starting guys, like DJ Uiagalelei. That's the quarterback. That's arguably the most important position in all of sports. He's a transfer guy, has never been a part of the program, comes in and has to learn everybody, whatever, learn the system. Who are the wide receivers? Where are they? The running back, your star running back, Roydell Williams. Where was he? Where was he? He made me look stupid because I put him on FanDuel and said he was going to rush for more than 70 yards, dude, and he was terrible. I went on Twitter and I said Jalen Lucas and Teofalo. I can't pronounce his last name. Sorry,
it's like Toafali or
Toafali.
Yeah, whatever.
Looked a lot better. Now I don't think Roydell Williams was awful. I said he was awful. I don't think he will be terrible. Let's say that. He did not look great against Georgia Tech, where the other two were getting yards and were making plays. Roydell Williams, I mean, he as soon as he was getting hit, he was going down. So I wasn't very pleased with Florida State's offense, but that's what you expect, a vanilla offense. And with DJU, he's never going to win you a game. He's never going to lose you a game. He's going to keep you in a freaking game to lose by a field goal as the clock expires.
So Florida State ran for 48 yards on the first drive. Actually, ran for even more than that. They ran for 56 yards. The second play of the game, Roydell Williams ran for 8. And then they got down into actually, they ran for even more than that. It looks like they ran for 60 yards. 8, 2, 10, 10, and 28. It's 10, 20, 30. They ran for 58 yards on the first drive of the game.
Yep. So 40 yards the rest of the game, folks.
Now, one thing, Georgia Tech, you got to give Georgia Tech a lot of credit here because Georgia Tech shortened that game by a ton. Florida State had 7 possessions in this game because Georgia Tech was eating the clock, absolutely eating it away.
Well, Jake, you say that, but they had less time of possession than Florida State. They had 1 minute less time of possession than Florida State did, I believe. 29
you are right.
30.
You are right. But what I'm saying is the second half, they had multiple drives of scoring. Now, Florida State did score that last one. That last drive they had was 8 minutes, 15 plays, 84 yards. You probably would have liked it to be a little bit faster, but also understanding you're not trying to give too much time. But the problem was there was 3 total possessions in the fourth quarter. When it mattered, Georgia Tech was eating the clock away.
Yes, I agree with that.
They went 11 plays, 89 yards, and 12 plays, 49 yards on their last 2 possessions. They were smart with it. Florida State had a chance. Georgia Tech fumbled the ball. Haynes King fumbled the ball. He pulled the ball back when trying to give it to Haynes. And I don't know how Florida State didn't recover that. That ball was sitting there on the ground for way too long for Florida State not to be able to get it. And Georgia Tech was able to recover because of the offensive lineman pounced on it.
Hats off to the big ugly, baby.
Now, I loved the way Florida State came out. They came out aggressive. They had great play calls. That 2-point conversion attempt was tricky. I wish I'd been able to see it live, but you know what? For some reason, they decided that the replay was more important, and we missed it because we saw the replay of it after they scored. We got to do better than that, ESPN. Got to do better than that.
They're all drinking Guinness.
But Georgia Tech, they played a physical game. And Florida State was not ready for it. They were not ready for that physicality that Georgia Tech was bringing them.
They threw one haymaker. They threw one haymaker in that first drive, and then
Jamal Haynes. I mean, he finished with 75 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he only ran the ball 11 times. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're getting 7 yards a carry, it's hard to be able to slow that down.
Yeah, for sure.
Georgia Tech didn't do many plays. They didn't take many shots. They played it. Honestly, like overall, like conservative but aggressive at the same time.
Yeah,
I know it's weird to say. Like they didn't take shot plays. They weren't doing anything tricky. They just ran the ball well, and they played great defense, stuffing him up the middle, making DJU in that first half. They showed a stat where his average yard in the air was -0.1. Now, a question: is that the coaching or is that the player?
It's both. It's because they've watched him in practice all summer, all spring. That's what they see. They know he does not push the ball down the field. You know, everybody thought that was Clemson's play calling when he was there. Now we see, and he was doing the same thing at Oregon State. I mean, guys, he's the same person. I don't understand why people thought what has Mike Norvell done to prove that he can change somebody like this? Tyree Jackson? No, he didn't. He didn't even coach Tyree Jackson. Who was it? Who was it before that?
Jordan Travis.
Yeah, Jordan Travis. But who was it before when he was at Memphis?
I don't even remember.
What Paxton Lynch was it? Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. You coach Paxton Lynch and Jordan Travis. Like, whoop-de-doo. Like, I don't know, man. Like, this Florida State team, they better respond because they look crappy. And everybody's like, oh, well, they had to travel all the way across the
yeah. So did Georgia Tech.
Yeah, so did Georgia Tech. Yeah, so,
Tallahassee and Atlanta aren't that far apart from each other when you're talking about going to Dublin.
And I hate to tell you, it sounded like a Florida State home game while we were, when they were playing. I heard a lot of the war chant. I didn't hear a lot of Georgia Tech fans. So you had a home field advantage.
So want to jump over to SMU here. SMU, we got to talk about it. How lucky are they?
They're pretty darn lucky. I mean, Preston Stone was awful. 17 for 30. I mean, just a little bit above 50%. He was awful. I'm pretty sure he got benched at some point. Thank God for RJ Maryland, right? The freaking tight end that we've been talking about. The 3-Tech pod really loves him. Freaking 162 yards, 1 touchdown, 8 catches. I think they found their guy they're going to lean on heavily. RJ Maryland is a freaking stud, but that was pretty eye-opening, in terms of what we thought SMU was going to be able to do. Again, it's week 1. I sound hypocritical. I'm over there bashing Florida State. Florida State has the opportunity to respond, figure out who you are, and adapt. SMU, man, Nevada was awful last year. I think they were the bottom 3 in the Mountain West and predicted to be in the bottom 3 in the Mountain West this year too. So I don't think it's the Nevada team is that great. I think SMU just either came out flat and overlooked their opponent, or maybe SMU is going to struggle this first year in the ACC. I think maybe the people like myself might have been a little too aggressive to jump the gun and pick them to be dark horses in the ACC.
I don't know if we're getting too aggressive with it. I think SMU is still going to be a pretty good team this year. I think there is a factor of thinking Nevada's not very good. It's in a road game. You're playing in week 0, not a lot of hype. You come in with a lot of expectations for yourself. We've seen plenty of times where teams have struggled to lower opponents and still had great seasons.
Yep.
That's just because of one game. It's not going to dictate their whole season right now. Is it concerning? Yeah, a little bit. You don't really want Preston Stone to come out there and have a rough game against a pretty bad Nevada team, at least that we believe being bad. Nevada could end up being a decent team by the end of the year. But you don't really want that. But, you come out there with a win. That's the main thing. SMU, they're still a long way to go with this season. They play this weekend against Houston Christian, then they get BYU, and then they get a bye week. So they should be able to win these next 2 games. BYU isn't supposed to be very good either. So
Houston Christian, though, watch out.
Watch out. Watch out. Saturday at 8 o'clock for SMU. All right, let's jump into.
Quick, Jake,
go ahead.
Real quick, so we can. All the haters out there who are going to call us hypocrites. The difference between SMU and Florida State is you want to tell them, Jake?
No,
SMU won.
That's
SMU won. So Florida State lost. They couldn't do their bread and butter. SMU figured out a way to win. It doesn't have to look pretty. They figured it out.
The win-loss record is the only thing that matters in the end of the season. You can talk about, how much they won by or how much they lost by or who you lost to. And when you're in a Power 4 conference, all that matters is how many wins you get. SMU's in the ACC this year. If they finish with 10 wins and Florida State finishes with 8, SMU's a better team, at least on paper. I mean, if they don't play, we don't know, but SMU's going to have a better shot to get in the playoff if it comes to.
They ran for more yards than Florida State. Ran for 100.
That is true. Okay, let's get started. Not going to start with the game of the week. Going to start with lower one here. Miami and Florida face off in an intriguing matchup. Billy Napier is obviously coaching for his job. Mario Cristobal's seat is definitely a little warm after the lack of success over the last 2 years. When it comes down to Florida and Miami, what do you think is going to be the biggest key between these two teams?
The biggest key is going to be turnovers. And I talked about the same thing last week with, I think, Florida State and Georgia Tech, but which they both of them did a really good job of taking care of the ball for the most part. I mean, Haynes King got lucky with his 2 botched transfers. But it's going to come down to turnovers. So Cam Ward take care of the football? We've talked about this over and over. Every time we talk about Cam Ward, we talk about how he fumbles the ball frequently. Has he eliminated that? Are they going to allow him to play freely? We'll see. And then Graham Mertz, does he take a next step? I mean, he took care of the ball pretty well last year. I think he only threw 3 picks, right, Jake?
Yeah, he only threw 3 interceptions last year.
So if he can hold onto the ball and keep Florida in good field position, keep them in winning football. I mean, I think Florida's defense, since it's healthy, is going to be a lot better. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on Miami. So I think the turnover battle is going to be key, especially for Miami.
Yeah, Florida, we're going to need somebody to step up for the Gators this year because Trevor Etienne is gone. Ricky Pearsall is also gone. So now Montrell Johnson led the team in rushing last year.
Yep.
So you've got him, but him and Etienne were a 2-headed monster there. They're both really solid backs. You're going to need another player to step up, or Montrell Johnson's just going to have to carry the load. At receiving, Eugene Wilson's back. Eugene Wilson was the second leading receiver last year. He had 61 catches for 538 yards. He only had 4 less catches, last year than Pearsall. So you're bringing back an experienced wide receiver. The question for me, like you said, can Graham Mertz go out there and win some games? It's a similar conversation to DJU for me. I think Graham Mertz, at one point, I talked about this. I thought he was, super overrated when he was at Wisconsin and coming off that high. Now I believe he's actually underrated because he has gotten the perception that he's just not a good quarterback. And that's not completely true. He's accurate, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's not going to push the ball super far downfield. I'm interested to see how he matches up against Miami's defense. And Cam Ward, he's got a fumbling problem. He fumbled like 8 times last year. I think he lost 8 fumbles last year.
Yeah.
And Now, Miami should have a decent offensive line. Both of these teams, this is a what are you game, because honestly, I don't know what either team is. Damian Martinez comes over from Oregon State for Miami, and I think that's a really good pickup. Damian Martinez was really, really good with the Beavers last year and gives Ward a very fun weapon out of the backfield. If I'm Miami, I'm going to rely on Damian Martinez, and if I get up by more than a touchdown with less than 2 minutes left, and the other team has no timeouts, I'm going to learn how to kneel the ball. I'm not going to try to give it to Damian Martinez. I think that's very important for Miami fans this year. We got to make sure that Mario Cristobal knows how to kneel the ball out.
Before we go too far off the Graham Mertz to DJU comparison, I want to tell you the biggest difference between Graham Mertz and DJU is Graham Mertz has gotten better. So every year he's thrown for more yards that he started. So he started off at Wisconsin. His first year starting, he threw 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. COVID year. His second year starting, he threw for 1,800 yards and 9 touchdowns and 10 picks. So he threw a lot more interceptions, but he threw for more yards. So this is when we start getting, okay, he's overrated. Let's see what he does next year. Throws for 2,100 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. So same amount of picks. Big spike in touchdowns. Then he goes to Florida. And everybody talked about how he sucked last year. Jake, he threw for 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 3 picks. So
he also completes 73% of his passes, which is a very high number.
Correct. That's 15% more than he had been completing at Wisconsin. So we talk about Graham Mertz and you talk about DJU. DJU has not left that 57, 58% completion percentage, whereas Graham Mertz took a huge step. He improved under Billy Napier. He got better. And what's to say he doesn't? If he has that same stat line this year with a healthy defense, Jake, they're going to be a good football team. This is why they're my dark horse, my walk-on team, if you will. This is why I don't buy all this hate for Florida. Yes, they have a tough schedule, but they play in the SEC. Everyone has a freaking tough schedule. I don't like all the hate for Graham Mertz. I think he's going to be a very, very good quarterback this year. Now, I think some of that 72% might have been how far they were throwing it down the field, but I don't know. He was a vastly better quarterback than he had been his entire career last year.
Yeah, no, I agree. Part of it is the scheme. Part of it is his experience. What are they throwing? Who are they throwing to? What kind of play design are they? They were not putting Mertz in positions to fail last year, which is important. But heading into this year, he needs to be the leader. He needs to be a reason they win games. Yeah, the problem is that defense is going to be a big key because they couldn't rush the passer very well last year. And they're going to need to get pressure on Cam Ward or else he's going to be able to pick them apart. And that's not something that a defense is going to be able to hold up for because Ward is going to find somebody. They've got Xavier I can never pronounce Miami. Restrepo. Yeah, Xavier Restrepo on Miami, who will find his way to get open.
I love him. He's awesome. And then Arroyo, the big tight end, he was hurt last year, but was slated out a huge year. We had a couple big tight ends last year get hurt. The guy Lachey from Iowa, Evans from Notre Dame, and Arroyo from Miami. So I'm hoping all those guys, all the big boys, can stay healthy this year.
Yeah. So this game is a who are you and what are you made of? Because this is a tone-setting game when you've got a rivalry game week 1 out of the chute.
Right. And again, I think Florida had 10+ injuries on the defense. We don't know what that defense actually looks like. Miami has so many transfers coming in. We don't know what that team is going to be. Quarterback's gone. The identity has completely changed. Cam Ward is completely different from Tyler Van Dyke. So yeah, I like that. This is a who are you? It's a tone setter.
Exactly. All right. Notre Dame and Texas A&M play this weekend in an unusual matchup. I don't recall these two teams really ever playing. Maybe they did once, but don't recall these two. A little bit more of an odd matchup. Notre Dame tends to play their traditional team, play some rivalry teams, but they're going to play Texas A&M on Saturday. It's the night game. We've got Riley Leonard facing off against Connor Wigman, and both teams were affected by transfers. Both had a lot of transfer outs, a couple transfer ins. Texas A&M had a lot of guys on that defense transfer out. They had Evan Stewart transfer out. Notre Dame lost a bunch of receivers. They bring in Riley Leonard to be their quarterback here. This is not an easy game for Riley Leonard to step into. And to me, this comes down to a battle of quarterbacks, but really, I think the defenses are going to be the absolute key. Am I crazy for thinking the total points could be 32 on Saturday?
I think so because I don't know, because I'm forgetting his name. It's the cornerback for Notre Dame. He's probably gonna be a first-round pick.
Benjamin Morrison.
Yeah. And so can Texas A&M throw the ball? I mean, he might take away Moose Muhammad, but there's other guys at Texas A&M. I don't know. I don't think you're crazy. I think you might have a couple issues, but I don't think you've quite touched crazy yet. So, because what is Connor Wegman going to do? I'm very curious to see what he looks like.
He wasn't able to stay healthy last year. He only played in 4 games last year.
Right. So is he completely healthy? Has he recovered? I mean, I think that's a big, to go back to the SMU Nevada game, I think some of the biggest issues we saw with Preston Stone probably is a lot of rust coming off. I mean, dude broke his leg last year. So Connor Wegman, I believe he had an ACL tear. What was it? What was him? What was wrong with him? Or what wasn't wrong with him, I guess, is probably the shorter list.
It was a leg issue. I'd have to look it up, but I know it was some sort of leg issue because the 4th game of the year is where he was injured, came out, and was done for the year.
Yeah, and then they had the plethora of quarterbacks. So can Connor Wegman come in? Can he stay healthy? Can he still run the ball? I mean, he was never a Haynes King. So I don't know. This is another identity game. Notre Dame, like you said, lost a lot of people. Bo Collins comes in at receiver. They still have Jaden Greathouse. Mitchell Evans is back. He's healthy. Who's the quarterback? The running back? Love.
Jeremiah Love.
So it's now his backfield. Audric Estime is gone. And you have Riley Leonard, who is a run threat, way more than he is a pass threat. So I'm not very high on Riley Leonard. Yes, he beat Clemson. So anybody that wants to come comment on this, he beat Clemson. Blah, 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 blah. He didn't do squat in the passing game against Clemson. And if you take away the one amazing play he played, so hats off to him. It's not a fluke. He made a great play. He stayed on, was going to be a sack. He broke it, ends up going for a 50-yard touchdown. You take that away, he has a terrible game. So he didn't look great in some of the bigger games. So he plays Notre Dame. He ends up getting hurt, which you see a lot of grit. The dude's tough. I'll give him that. But he is a runner. So can Notre Dame establish the running game, especially with their left tackle? Wow, I am just struggling with names today, Jake. The big left tackle goes down. He's out for the season during fall camp. So I'm never usually worried that much about Notre Dame's offensive line. I feel like that's just like a constant factory of just NFL guys just coming in. So whoever's backing up is probably going to be great. So the key of this battle is going to be watching Notre Dame's offensive line versus Texas A&M's 5-star littered defensive line that just none of them have ever panned out yet. So that's what I'm really going to watch in this matchup.
So they're going to have some serious inexperience on this offensive line. They sound like they could be starting. Well, they're going to be starting a true freshman and left tackle. Might be starting they're starting a sophomore, apparently, according to what I'm looking here. This is from Sports Illustrated. Sophomore at left guard, junior at center, junior at right guard, junior at right tackle. But I know a lot of these guys lack experience because both of their offensive tackles went to the pros last year.
Yeah.
So they are going to have some serious inexperience. And we've talked about the A&M defensive line. They've got talent there. You've got Nick Scorton. You've got Shamar Stewart. You got Shamar Turner. These guys, Nick Scorton was like a 3-star who went to Purdue and transferred in, but is arguably a first-round pick. But he's a stud.
Yeah.
But he's a stud. He's probably going to be a first-round pick now. Shamar Stewart was a 5-star player coming out. They've got plenty of other guys. Shamar Turner's another really good interior defensive line. It's time for these guys to be able to rush the passer. Scorton, we know what he can do. What can he do in the SEC, though? We saw what he did in the Big Ten, who plays against some, basically Notre Dame style tackles, if we're being honest.
Right. Those are the best offensive linemen in the country are coming out of the Big Ten. I mean, if he's dominating those on a no offense to Purdue, but a piss poor defense, I mean, I'm excited to see what he does. He can do something. He
can do something. He can play. You don't sleep on him. Nick Scorton is going to probably have. If A&M wins, I'm going to call it now that it's because of Nick Scorton.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, he's not coming from East-West Kalamazoo. He's coming from Purdue. And
he was incredibly productive at Purdue, and everybody knew he was rushing the passer. They didn't have anything else on Purdue's defense, and he was still getting to the quarterback. Right. They were able to double team him, and they were able to scheme the offensive line. Again, he was still able to get back there. So when you have other talented guys on the defensive line with you, it just frees up either you or somebody else on that defensive line to get to the quarterback. But can Riley Leonard evade all of that? We know what he can do. He's mobile. He can get around. Can he evade all that? That's the key to me is Notre Dame's offensive line versus A&M's defensive line and Riley Leonard's ability to make plays. Another big game, Sunday night. A game I'm actually going to be missing. Hashtag ban fall weddings. Hashtag ban fall weddings. If you don't plug, hey, if you don't have one of our pint glasses already, we got 3 of them right now. As of right now, ready to go, ready for sale. Come support us. Hashtag ban fall weddings. But it's a Sunday wedding, so I can't really fault them. But I am missing USC and LSU. The two teams that are both replacing almost the exact same things on both sides, and nobody knows what they're going to be. USC and LSU are replacing Heisman Trophy quarterbacks. Both of them had terrible defenses and are replacing their defensive coordinators. And there's weapons on both sides of the ball that are being replaced. Multiple wide receivers from USC, multiple wide receivers from LSU. I mean, we say identity game, but like, honestly, we don't even know what these two teams are.
Right. And we have no idea. But like, when I look at offensive weapons, I am more keen to lean towards USC right now. Hey, that's a good little, I'm a poet. It didn't even cross my mind, keen to lean. I love Zachariah Branch. I'm looking to see him take a big step in the receiving game. I'm looking to see Deuce Robinson take a big step in this receiving game. What does Miller Moss do? Who is Miller Moss? Who is Garrett Nussmeier, right? Who are the receivers at LSU? What is this defense going to look like? You have Harold Perkins. So at least LSU can hang their hat on having Harold Perkins. They have a guy. You got Bear Alexander still at USC, but who is he? I mean, he goes to USC and is less relevant than he was at Georgia, and he was a backup at Georgia. So USC's
they have another 5-star defensive lineman from A&M, coincidentally. I can't remember his name. Lynn, maybe. I forget what it is. I know he transferred over from A&M last year, and he had more of an impact than Bear Alexander.
Right. And I think this game, you want to talk about a high-scoring game, I think this game we're going to see over 50 points. Is that crazy, Jake? I think we see 69 points. You like that?
Ooh, very nice. I want to believe that USC is going to have a better defense. I want to believe LSU is going to have a better defense. LSU brings over, I can't think of it, Banks, I think from Missouri. I forget what his name is. And then USC brings over Lynn from UCLA, the defensive coordinator, who had a very strong defense over at UCLA. And Missouri had a tough as nail defense as well. But installing these new defenses isn't always in overnight success. Sometimes you see incremental success. Lincoln Riley has struggled to ever have a good defense, almost ever. I mean, he had Alex Grinch for forever. That's his own fault for hiring the worst defensive coordinator in the history of college football.
Grinch talk.
Yeah, hashtag Grinch talk. But I think I'm buying more into the Miller Moss hype than I am to Garrett Nussmeier.
Me too.
I think Miller Moss is going to fit this Lincoln Riley system of being able to get the ball into these playmakers. Zachariah Branch is going to play on Sundays. He is an absolute stud. Deuce Robinson is an incredibly underrated tight end because he was so young. He was a baseball player, is now going to focus on football, it sounds like, and is incredibly athletic.
Huge target. I think he's 6'6", right? He is
a huge target. He's speed. He's got agility. He can make plays in space. Zachariah Branch can play anywhere on the field. I think it's going to be very easy for Miller Moss to rack up stats with these guys on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, I'll give you 2 words why I think Miller Moss is going to be better than Garrett Nussmeier. Lincoln Riley. What does Lincoln Riley do? We can talk a lot of trash about him, about winning and winning the big one and make it to the playoff and yada, yada, yada. What does he do? This dude turns out Heisman winning quarterbacks. That's just what he does. He has not coached a quarterback off the top of my head that has not won. He has not. Spencer Rattler. Sorry about Spencer Rattler. I think Spencer Rattler is the only quarterback he's coached in the past decade that has not won a Heisman Trophy. Is that wrong? You got Baker Mayfield. You got Jalen Hurts.
Well, I mean, Jalen Hurts didn't win a Heisman.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Why do I always think he won?
He finished second, but he has.
You're going to be in New York.
Yeah, you're almost guaranteed to be in New York unless your name is Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, who now might start for the Saints. So still great, still develops. Like I believe in USC's offense more than I believe in LSU's offense. I don't believe in either defense. Therefore, I think USC has the upper hand in this game. Plus, Lincoln Riley's coaching for his freaking job. So I think USC is going to come out there and prove something on Sunday.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that thought either. The game of the week, which for some reason is being played at noon on Saturday. It's not even big noon kickoff. And we're playing Georgia and Clemson at noon.
It's disgusting.
We're not even on Fox. What are we doing? What are we doing? I feel like that meme of what are we doing right now?
ESPN hates Clemson. I know I sound like a homer, but they do. They hate him. I think Clemson has less than an 18% chance to win per ESPN's metrics. ESPN has
because they only have a 17% chance.
17? Yeah. So I see what you're saying. You listen here, Jake. So I love it though. I love it. You're just fueling Dabo's Roy bus. Put us at noon, an off shift game on a freaking kickoff Saturday. That's all right. Everybody's going to be tuned in. People are going to find a way. So I'm very excited for this game. I'm ready for this ball to be freaking spotted right now. And you know what? I'm actually excited that it's at noon because now I don't have to wait to freaking dark 30 to watch this game. I can watch it 12 o'clock and I can either have a great day or I can have a terrible day watching football.
At least it'll be over with. You don't have to deal with the anticipation all day.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Let's freaking spot the ball as early as possible. Hell, let's spot it at 6 a.m. I don't care, Jake. Let's do it.
You'll be up already.
That's right.
For you, what is the one key in this game?
Well, I have two things that I really want to discuss. So my one major key is which defense steps up the biggest. But outside of that, it's Cade Klubnik. And we know what we're going to get out of Carson Beck. He's steady Eddie. He's going to throw for a good amount of yards. He's going to make some plays. But like I've said and gotten some flack over, I do not think he's elite. I don't think he takes over games. I think he does exactly what he needs to do to win the football game. There's nothing wrong with that. But you cannot be an elite Heisman winning quarterback without having gaudy numbers. And I mean, he had some games in which he put out gaudy statistics, but I just don't see it from him. He doesn't make that big time sack evasion. He doesn't make that big time throw. And just because I'm saying this is all going to happen on Saturday, by the way. But what does Cade do to step up? And does he make a big step forward, being his second year as a starter and second year under offense coordinator Garrett Riley? But I really, really want to focus on the defenses. Everybody talks about Cade Klubnik. Everybody's talking about that. Let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. So Georgia lost a lot of guys to the draft. Clemson lost a lot of guys to the draft. I think Clemson had 5 or 6 guys drafted on that defense last year, replacing a lot of them. But every year Georgia and Clemson have good defenses. But if I told you, I'm going to tell you. So now, let me not lead off that way. So Clemson's had the 8th ranked total defense last year, right? Pretty good. Georgia had the 9th, pretty even. So, and rush defense, Clemson was 22, Georgia was 18. Clemson was 8th in pass defense, Georgia was 9. But this is where the biggest the biggest difference is, guys. The biggest difference between these two teams, Clemson was 11th in the nation in tackles for loss and 36th in the nation in sacks. Georgia was 96th in the nation in tackle for loss and 66th in the nation in sacks. So you're talking about a team like Georgia, who their bread and butter is that front seven. They're in the back half in the NCAA last year of tackles for loss and sacks. So they're not putting guys in bad field position. So this team is vulnerable. If you get a good first down run, if you get some plus yardage, if you're in 3rd and short, 2nd and medium, you have a shot. And they weren't putting much pressure on quarterbacks last year. They just weren't. So now the tackles for loss, the difference in tackles for loss was pretty minor, even though the gap was so big in the rankings. Clemson had 79, Georgia had 61, so it's 18 tackles for loss difference. And then sacks was only 2. Clemson had 32 sacks, Georgia had 30. But the tackles for loss thing is huge. So, Clemson's going to rely on that running game. Georgia is too. Which defense steps up bigger? Which defense is able to make more plays? They're saying that Clemson's secondary is their weak point right now. We got a lot of freshmen coming back. We got some injuries. What's going to happen, Jake? So, but Jake, I come back to you. I'm more of a homer. I'm really keyed on this. From your perspective, what do you see as the biggest key to the game?
Yeah, you hit on this. Kate Klubnik is the biggest thing, and being able to keep him upright as well. You talked about Georgia's defensive line, but we know how talented that Georgia defense is year in and year out. The stats mean a lot, but also we know what they do in big-time games. That Clemson offensive line has to get pushed, has to let Phil Maffa get a couple yards downfield. They cannot be in second and long, third and long.
Yeah,
Kate Klubnik has talent, but the consistency hasn't always been there. There have been times in big games, you look back at your North Carolina State game last year, he threw 2 interceptions, like timely interceptions and timely turnovers are huge. Being able to take care of the ball. I know this sounds super cliche, but he's got to be able to finish off drives.
Yeah.
You cannot kick field goals against Georgia and expect to win. The last time they played, this was a 10-3 game.
Yep.
This was a very close game.
No offensive touchdowns.
There were no offensive touchdowns. You need to be able to – this is going to be a defensive game again.
Yep.
I think it'll be higher scoring than 10-3, but you cannot settle for field goals. You have to be finishing off drives and scoring touchdowns. There's going to be a field position battle, I can guarantee at some point, of trying to pin somebody back. Can you pin Georgia back inside the 15-yard line and not let them get a first down? So the next time you're starting the ball, you're starting at your own 45-yard line, giving yourself a short field. The stats prove that a shorter field, you have a better chance of scoring.
Right. And to add to that, it being a close game like last time, Clemson just announced their starting kicker today, and that's Nolan Hauser, the true freshman. So he beats out Robert Gunn III, who was the starting kicker last year and notoriously lost his job to the accountant from New York or whatever. So you get in the close game. We have a freshman. We have a true freshman that Dabo's handing the keys to. So obviously this dude's had a good enough fall camp to have the keys handed to him. But your first game's against Georgia and the freaking Mercedes-Benz Dome. So we're going to see.
You want his first attempt to be an extra point. You absolutely want his first attempt to be an extra point.
Get some confidence.
So there's no way that they're going to start off with a 50-yard field goal. There's absolutely no way that they're going to go for a 50-yard field goal on the first attempt, first chance that they get, because if it's third or it's 4th and 6 from the 35-yard line, it's going to be a conversation of, do you go for it or do you punt it? Because you're probably not going to, maybe you'll throw the freshman kicker out there, but that's a heck of a spot to put a true freshman in on his very first kick.
And the biggest difference between this year's Clemson team and last year's Clemson team, we had Antonio Williams coming into the first week. That's who we knew we could throw the ball to. Bo Collins was very inconsistent his entire career and continued to be last year. Antonio Williams was great his freshman year, ends up getting hurt in that Duke game. So we lose him for the rest of the year. But then we relied on what? Jake Brenningstool? Will Shipley out of the backfield. Jake Brenningstool as the tight end. This year, coming in, we have a healthy Tyler Brown, who established himself late in the year last year, or early in the year, excuse me. You have a healthy Antonio Williams. You have a healthy Adam Randall. You have a healthy Bryant Wesco, who's a freshman who's been wowing everybody at camp. All you hear about is how great he is and how he's already head and shoulders above some of the younger guys that were there way before him. You've got
is Troy Stellato even going to play?
He got banged up in fall camp. So
shocking.
Yep.
He's hurt once again.
He came off gimpy, but this year he said he's going to make sure he plays hurt. So I'm like, well, I guess you're going to,
because he don't got much eligibility left.
Yeah, this is his last year. So and I like Troy Stellato. I think he's a really talented guy. I think it sucks that he gets injured so much, but can he stay on the field? Jake Brenningstool was. He came on really late in the year, like as an excellent, reliable target for Cade, and you could really see Cade rely on him. You look at the Miami game where he had a phenomenal game. You look at the Kentucky game, he had some big catches. So I think that's the biggest difference. And what's Georgia going to do? Like, I think Georgia is kind of always lacked a star wide receiver. I mean, Ladd McConkey, yes, he was great, but you don't have that big flashy guy. George Pickens was there, but he had trouble staying on the field because he kept getting in trouble.
They had A.D. Mitchell for a minute too.
Yep. And he had a big time. I think he had the game-winning touchdown in one of the national championships. Did he not? Yeah, and then he goes off to Texas.
Goes off to Texas.
That was mind-boggling. It's like, why is it that Georgia can't hold on to these receivers? Now, it sounds like they just have a freaking factory of tight ends. Oscar Delp, the number one tight end in the country, is their new tight end to replace Brock Bowers, who was the number one tight end in the country. So, sounds like they can make those guys pretty good.
Yeah, so we'll get into picks here. People probably already know which way you're leaning, but we'll get into picks here. but first, we got to talk about underdog. We got to talk about underdog fantasy because we both went 1-1 last week. I at least know I went 1-1. Did you go 1-1?
I went 0-2. No, Preston Stone ended up coming in late and got me one. So yes, I went 1-1.
See, we both went 1-1. So it was a warm up week, but we both hit one. So we're both going to hit our picks this week because underdog fantasy, is a great way to take your college fandom to the next level. There's always a need to check out underdog fantasy. It's the easiest way to pick your teams and make your favorite picks throughout the biggest games this year. We've been using underdog for a year now. We love it. It's a game changer. Make sure you use promo code WALK-ON to claim your free pick. Plus, first time deposit up to $1,000 in bonus cash. It's free money. That is 1,000% free money. Visit underdogfantasy.com or find them on the app. Must be 18 or older to play, in terms apply. That is promo code WALK-ON. Make sure you go check that out. We're going to make our two picks.
WALKON. I didn't even read anything. That was off the dome. I can spell walk-on.
Wow. Do it again.
WALKON.
Oh, genius over here. All right, I got two picks here. This first one, if this doesn't hit, I would be absolutely stunned. Mitchell Evans higher than 26.5 receiving yards. Are you kidding me? A&M and Notre Dame face off Saturday. Riley Leonard's got a new team. The wide receivers are a little bit unproven. You talked about Bill Collins. They've got Jeremiah Love there. Mitchell Evans, 26.5 receiving yards. He crossed this in 5 of 7 games last year, and he showed up big and crossed this number big time against Ohio State, Duke, and Louisville. He only played in 7 games last year because he got hurt. A quarterback's favorite target when they get started, a lot of times the tight end, especially when you got a talented one like Mitchell Evans. Yes, Notre Dame's put out great guys, great tight ends. Michael Mayer was there. They've got a history of tight ends. Riley Leonard's going to rely on their tight ends. I can feel it. Like, he's going to rely on Mitchell Evans. This wouldn't shock me if he hits this in the first quarter.
He better. He doesn't have much else to throw to.
Yeah, exactly. Second one here, I got Chez Mellusi from Wisconsin going higher than 62.5 rushing yards. Mellusi has split time with Braylon Allen the last couple years. Should be the number one back. They're playing Western Michigan this week. Tyler Van Dyke had up and down time at Miami. I think that they're going to rely on the running game. I know Luke Fickell runs a little bit different style of offense, but I think Mellusi is going to go for more than 60 yards. Question is, do they get up big enough where they don't play him in the second half? I know Wisconsin tends to rotate running backs. Can he get to this, in the first half? That's my only concern, but I think he's going to get there pretty easily.
Hey, Jake, where did Chez Mellusi transfer from?
Clemson, 9 years ago.
Closet.
I don't know how Chez Mellusi is still in college. I'll be honest. I think he's class of 2018.
We got a closet Clemson fan over here.
Yeah,
love it. All right, so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I talked up Omarion Hampton to be a dark horse Heisman candidate for me, plus 30,000. That's probably changed after all the people who listened and went and put the money on it last week when I said that. So I have him this week going higher than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdowns. Last year, he had 16 total touchdowns. Only one of those was a receiving touchdown, but he had 16 total. He only played in 13 games. So do the math. He's scoring more than one touchdown per game. I love that.
And they play a difficult game against Minnesota. Now, it's not a super tough game. Spread's only 1.5. We'll get that here in a minute, but they're going to need somebody to score.
Yeah, and Minnesota did stout or bring out on the field a 10th ranked defensive the 10th ranked defense against the rush last year. So it is going to be tough, But I think a guy like Amari Hampton, it doesn't matter what kind of defense comes out there. I mean, he ran for over 100 yards against Clemson's defense last year. So I think that's easy money right there. So go ahead and take that one to the bank. So you want to mix and match me and Jake's, take Mitchell Evans and Amari Hampton?
That might be
easy.
That could be an absolute play right there.
Those are my locks. So, but then I got Dylan Raiola, the true freshman quarterback from Nebraska. I have him throwing for higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. And the reason I like this is they're playing, really playing again, University of Texas El Paso. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And so it's an easier game. They're not going to want him to go out there and make a bunch of mistakes. They're not going to show a lot because they're not playing a big time opponent. So they just want him to go out there, run the offense, but they're going to want him to make a name for himself. The easiest way to do that is get down in the goal line and score. And I think he's going to be able to do that, especially against a weaker opponent. So I like my two picks. I would love to mix and match the Amari Hampton and Mitchell Evans pick. You're allowed to do that. Hey, you could fade both of us. We both went 1-for-1 last year. Take our ones and put them together. We might go for 1-for-1 this week too.
Hey, mix and match. That's all that matters. Or find the ones you like the best. Promo code WALK-ON. Just saying. In case you want to do it.
WALKON.
All right. Now I got a name for this. We're gonna call this the Walk-On Weekly 10. How about that?
Oh, I like it.
Walk-On Weekly 10.
Walk-On Weekly 10.
Our 10 picks every week, 10 games, spreads. These are based off of FanDuel right now because that's the one that I happen to open. We're going to put these out on a form on Twitter for everybody who wants to play along. Make sure that see how you match up, see if you can do better than us. I guess we won't count week 0 in there, even though I did beat William in week 0, going 3-1 while he went 2-2. Just saying. So we'll put this out, or Walk-On Weekly 10. We'll put this out every week, probably on like Wednesday or Thursday. Probably Wednesday this week because we've got games on Thursday. Probably going to have more games on Thursday throughout the week. But our Walk-On Weekly 10 here. Going to start with an FCS versus FBS game. I did not want to put this on here, but it's gotten so much traction on social media that I couldn't not put it on here. North Dakota State and Colorado. Colorado is favored by 9.5 points. All right. Who are you taking?
9.5. Oh, man. I talked a lot about North Dakota State and this being a potential spoiler. And every year, Jake, in week 1, we have had an FCS team beat an FBS team. Now, if you want to say that Montana State accomplished that last week, but that was week 0. I don't know if North Dakota State beats Colorado. I think they hang in there long enough. God, I think North Dakota State is such a well-coached team that, I think they hang in there. I think North Dakota State covers this. I know that's an ugly, disgusting pick, but I think I'm going North Dakota State plus 9.5.
So this is not the same North Dakota State team that everybody is used to. This is not even the same North Dakota State that there was last year because their head coach left to become the linebacker coach. Matt Entz left to become the linebacker coach at USC. And North Dakota State has not won a national championship since 2021. Yes, I know that's not that long ago. They lost the championship in 22, made it to the semifinal in 23. It was a trend backwards. They're still talented. I am not buying the Colorado hype, but Shedeur Sanders is way better than people want to give him credit for. North Dakota State lost, I believe it was one of their linebackers or starting safeties. Not a good match when you're going against guys like Travis Hunter on defense. I'm going to take Colorado to cover this. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think Colorado wins by like 17 to 20 points, if I'm being honest. Maybe it's close for like the first quarter, first half, but I don't think this is going to be that close. Dion is doing some questionable tactics, banning reporters and whatnot. I think he learned from some stuff last year because he had a rough outing in his first year. That Stanford game still definitely sticks out in my mind when they were up by a lot. I think Colorado wins this game pretty easily in the end. Second game we have here is Thursday night, I believe. I didn't write down the days, but I'm pretty sure it's Thursday night. North Carolina versus Minnesota. UNC is favored by only 1.5, but they are traveling up to Minnesota.
Give me the Tar Heels. Give me the Tar Heels. I think they're more established. They have Amarian Hampton. They have a key piece, a keystone of that last year's offense. Max Johnson, I believe, comes in as the quarterback. I like him a lot better than the dude from New Hampshire that went to Minnesota. So that dude from New Hampshire, that'd be a good T-shirt.
Max Brosmer.
We're making a lot of good T-shirts over here, Jake.
We are. We've got so many good T-shirt ideas. That dude from New Hampshire. You can talk about a lot of people. That could be Chip Kelly. That could be Ryan Day. That could be Max Brosmer. They're all that dude from New Hampshire.
That dude from New Hampshire. How about Ferentz Bueller's Day Off? So we got some good T-shirts coming out of this episode.
Yeah, we've got some great ideas.
I'm going to UNC minus. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to take UNC as well. 1.5. I'll take that all day. I don't think Minnesota is going to be that good this year. I think Minnesota is going to struggle to make a bowl game. Max Johnson has experience. Now, I know Max Brosmer does too, but not at the FBS level. Different level. Not an easy game to start off with. I'm going to take UNC. Weird game here with third one, mainly because it's a Power 5 or I guess Power 4 versus Power 4, but TCU travels to Stanford. I don't know how much research you did on Stanford or even TCU, but TCU is a 9.5-point favorite.
Ugh, yuck is all I want to say. I think both of these teams are going to struggle this year. What's the quarterback at Morris? Is Morris starting at quarterback for TCU?
I didn't even look up TCU starting quarterback this year, I'll be honest. I can.
I'm going to go Stanford plus 9.5. You don't need to do it.
I was going to take Stanford mainly because it's a weird game. It's a West Coast game. It doesn't make any sense. There's probably going to be like 200 people there in the stands, and I'm going to take Stanford because college football doesn't make any sense. Noon game, Saturday, Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt. Virginia Tech is a 13.5-point favorite in Vanderbilt, and they're playing in the Titan Stadium, I'm pretty sure.
I'm taking Virginia Tech. I'm not looking back. I think that's the easy one. Quarterback for TCU is Josh Hoover.
Yeah, never heard of him before.
Hoover. Yep, me neither.
Virginia Tech, Kyron Jones, absolute beast. If they're going to get off to a great start, they got to beat Vanderbilt. Now, Vanderbilt does have Diego Pavia. I think he caused some trouble for Virginia Tech, but they got Daquan Felton there out wide receiver. I don't think Vanderbilt has anybody that can stop Jones and Felton.
Nope.
Another weird game, just because like in picking weird games in week one because we don't have a ton of options. UCLA travels to Hawaii and is 14.5-point favorites.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to UCLA, but that's disgusting. Is there an LA in Hawaii? Have we asked to Sean Foster?
Is UCLA located in Hawaii? That's what the people need to know.
We'll look that one
I'm going to take Hawaii. I think it's just an ugly game. I think UCLA is in a full rebuild. I think Hawaii covers the 14.5. I don't think they win, but I think they cover it.
Speaking of UCLA, Carson Steele, I got a bone to pick with him. Now he's going viral on freaking Twitter right now. Says he's going to come on the show and never showed up. Jake, do we have a bone to pick?
You just straight up called him out.
I think I did. You know what? Come on, come on, Mr. Steele. Come.
You just straight up called out Carson Steele. Love it. Love it.
I almost called him Connor. He deserves to be. You know what? Carson would have showed up. That's a true Connor move. That's a Connor move, not showing up.
In the offseason, we got Lance Leipold on here since he slid in my DMs.
That's right. We'll get him. We got for the people. We'll do it.
All right. Now we get into some of the good games here. Number 8, Penn State is an 8.5-point favorite on the road in Morgantown against West Virginia.
This is going to be a great game, but I think Drew Aller is going to really take a big step forward this year. I think the running game for Penn State is going to be too much for West Virginia. I see Penn State winning this by at least 10. I'm going Penn State minus 8.5, but I know what you're about to do, you sicko.
Oh, I am a sicko. I'm taking West Virginia to cover this. I am taking West Virginia. I don't think West Virginia wins this. I am going to preface this. West Virginia will not win this game, but this game is a sicko game. This game is going to be close.
It is.
Like, I could see Penn State cover. Penn State covered the spread on like the last play of the game last year. Don't forget about that. I could see a sicko move happening where they cover on the last play of the game again. Now they might cover, but I wouldn't recommend trying to cover because, Mario Cristobal tried to run the ball and then fumbled it and lost. So wouldn't recommend doing that. I think Garrett Green is a pretty darn good quarterback. Penn State's wide receivers concern me.
Yeah,
Julian Fleming is rumored to be the third wide receiver. Sean Clifford's little brother might be one of the top 2 wide receivers this year between Liam Clifford.
Are we sure it's not Sean Clifford? Are we sure it's not him with
he did just get released by the Packers. Maybe he's back on campus.
How convenient.
The receivers concern me. Singleton and Katron Allen were inconsistent last year. They need to be way more consistent this year. I'm not super sold on Drew Aller. Now, they do have a new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. Need to see how Drew Aller does with Andy Kolonicki. I think he can be better, but I also think West Virginia, this is like the biggest game in Morgantown in like the last 5 years.
Right.
Like they're going to go nuts. I think West Virginia keeps it close, but I think Penn State wins. Talked about this game earlier. We got Miami as a 2.5-point favorite over the Gators. I have a feeling. Yep. Knew that was coming.
Give me my Gators. My dark horse. My walk-on team.
We're going to differentiate a bunch. We're either somebody going to be way up or we're going to go 50-50 on this because I'm going to take Miami. I like Cam Ward. I know he had some issues fumbling. I really love the addition of Damian Martinez on that rushing attack. I think that is going to be the difference maker, having an experienced running back who can make plays like that. So give me Miami. LSU is a 4.5-point favorite at USC being played in Las Vegas for no reason whatsoever.
Fight on, baby.
Fight on.
Fight on. USC. I said it earlier. I trust USC's offense more than I trust LSU's offense, and I hate both defenses. So let's go USC. Fight on.
Yeah, I'm going to take USC here too. I think USC wins this game. I don't trust Garrett Nussmeier yet. Miller Moss at least has started a game. I know that's not always worth a ton out of a bowl game. But Zachariah Branch, absolute monster. I like the additions that USC made on defense. I think they improve enough to slow down LSU. I also think defenses are going to be, for the most part, non-existent. Whoever can get more stops on defense is going to win this game, which is very cliche, but I don't think there's going to be many stops on defense.
No, me neither.
Notre Dame plays A&M. The Aggies are 2.5-point favorites in this game.
Where's this game being played again?
College Station.
Yeah, I think this is bonkers. I'm going Texas A&M, and I'm not looking back. I think Texas A&M blows them out. I'm not high on Notre Dame this year. I think Notre Dame's offense is going to be putrid. I think Notre Dame's defense is going to be good. I don't see Notre Dame being the 7th best team in the country. I think they're going to get exposed like Florida State did.
Yeah, I'm with you on A&M there. I think A&M wins this by 10 to 14 points.
Yeah, easy.
I'm not confident that Notre Dame will be able to score consistently. The lack of weapons on the offensive side of the ball seriously concerns me. They're all inconsistent. Riley Leonard is inconsistent himself. Sam Hartman wasn't phenomenal, but you knew what you were getting out of him on a week-to-week basis. Riley Leonard, you really don't know what you're going to get out. You might get a 300-yard passing game out of him. You also might get 120 yards, 2 interceptions, and he ran for 30 yards and fumbled the ball once. So you just don't know what you're going to get out of him. I think A&M's defensive line takes a step up, and I think Notre Dame's offensive line's inexperience hurts in this game.
Yeah,
but this game is played in week 4, week 5. I might have a different opinion, but week 1, it's tough.
And if it's played somewhere else, it's played in College freaking Station. So that place gets rowdy.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The big game of the week here, Clemson against the Dogs.
Even if I wasn't biased, I think Clemson wins this game, obviously. I've said that numerous times. I think 13.5 is a lot of points, especially with how good both of these defenses are. So give me Clemson plus 13.5. I mean, I think we're going to find out about this whole transfer portal debate this year. So Dabo's been very hesitant to use the transfer portal. Not getting any key contributors out of the transfer portal. We've gotten backup quarterbacks, I think, at the most out of there. And this is the year we're going to find out if the building guys up through high school only can still beat this transfer portal field of football. I mean, this is the third year of him not using it. So give me Clemson.
You got Hunter Johnson out of the transfer portal.
After we got rid of him, brought him right back. You got Paul Tyson. Shout out Paul Tyson.
Yeah, you got at least Hunter Johnson out of it. Yeah, I'm gonna take Clemson plus 13.5 here. I think that is just too big of a line. This is a rivalry game. I know it's being played in Atlanta, but Clemson's not that far away. Like, there's gonna be a lot of fans from both sides. It's not like it's gonna be one-sided. Georgia's, you talked about it. The receivers, we're not sure what they are. The running backs, we're not sure who they all are right now. Who's going to be playing? Carson Beck is going to have to do a lot of it by himself. I do think Georgia wins this game, but I think it's 7 to 10 points. I don't believe they win by I don't think they win by 2 touchdowns. So I'll take Clemson here. That was our walk-on weekly 10.
We've made it though, Jake.
We made it. We're up to week 1. When you guys are listening to this, it will be probably in 36 hours at the start of week 1 for the most part. It'll be great. We'll be back next week for a recap of week 1, which would be great.
That's right.
And then we will also be previewing week 2. We're fully back. We are so back. We're so back. If you're not doing so already, make sure to follow us on social media. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to YouTube. Make sure to follow William on Twitter at Walk On Moose. Make sure to follow us at Walk On Redshirts on all of your social media platforms. Make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a rating, like William likes to say. Maybe you're a 5-star listener. Maybe you're a 4-star listener.
Yeah.
But give us a rate. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. We're more than happy for some constructive criticism. Help make your listening experience all that much better.
We love to chat ball. You don't need to agree with us. We love to chat ball regardless.
Exactly. Keep an eye out for the Walk On Weekly 10 that we'll put out. That way you guys can join and play along with us as well. But without further ado, appreciate you guys being here. We'll be back again next week. Enjoy all the college football this weekend.
Peace.